Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. That's one way to start off Christmas Eve there with a very narrow road victory against the New England Patriots. The Cincinnati Bengals team just continues to win, and while this, in not the Bengals' favor, unlike last week, was kind of a game of two halves here, they still found a way to win. Their defense still got stops, and it really was just one intense second half. I can't even imagine losing to Mac Jones in general, but especially on Christmas Eve, that would be very tough. So 7 straight victories for the Cincinnati Bengals. Today we'll get into all of it, but before we do, first things first, hope you guys all have a happy holiday and Merry Christmas tomorrow, depending on when you're watching this video. If we could try and get this video to 500 likes, that would be absolutely awesome, but be sure to drop your opinion on this game down below and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. So all the way until the fourth quarter, the New England Patriots had 0 plays in the Bengals territory. They had no plays past the 50-yard line, and some way, somehow, this game ended 22-18. Now, let's start with Joe Burrow. All right, he finished 40 of 52 for 375 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Now, that second interception was a pick six that was brought to the house in the third quarter for New England. So it made the score 22-6 because Cincinnati put up 22 unanswered in the first half. This game, for both kickers, they were missing field goals. They were missing extra points. It was actually a horrible kicking day, and that score, I guess should have been like 24-0 at halftime, but I didn't really think it was going to matter in any way, shape, or form. Both interceptions looked like miscommunication, all right? So I think that kind of goes to the main point of, yeah, Cincinnati has won 7 straight games. They are one of the hottest teams. They're one of the best teams in the National Football League, but this is not anywhere near their peak. Nowhere near their peak. They're still waiting for guys to get healthy on the defensive side. Hubbard missed today's game. Trey's playing with a broken wrist. Jeez. And offensively, they are still, Joe Mixon just recently came back. They're getting back on track. They're finding ways to win, but their offense, as good as it is, as good as those stats were for Joe Burrow, most of it was in the first half. They were doing a phenomenal job throwing the football. But, there are still some tweaks to be made. And that should terrify the rest of the league, because if you throw for 375 yards and it wasn't even that, there were still plenty of mistakes, I mean, that's kind of terrifying. I will say the Patriots defense did start to make plays in the second half. Cincinnati scored 0 points in the third and fourth. It was very narrow. At the end of the day, I mean, that touchdown pass from Mac Jones to Myers, it was deflected. It kind of looked like a Mickey Mouse touchdown. The way I see it, Cincinnati's defense really only gave up 1 touchdown today. Just 1 touchdown. So I think their defense did a phenomenal job. And offensively, I would like to see a little bit more consistency as far as just as halves go. Last week against Tampa Bay, it was a brutal first half. They ended it on a high note with that field goal, but they just kind of put their foot on neck there in the second half and demolished Tampa Bay. This week, they foot on the gas in the first half. Second half kind of faltered a little bit. So that's something I want to just see again heading into the last 2 games of the season against Buffalo and then against Baltimore. I want to see just 4 good, consistent quarters. But that defense, man, I mean, it really was crazy. That fumble with less than 2 minutes, Cincinnati gave up all their timeouts. It's a 4-point game. The Patriots got to score a touchdown, but they're on like the 6-yard line. That was one impressive fumble. Von Bell's a stud. Jermaine Pratt's a stud. Mike Hilton's a stud. Logan Wilson's a stud. All these guys are studs. And this defense, they have completely flipped around from the first half of the, not even really the first half of the season, but there were some games where they gave up, they gave up 26 to New Orleans, they gave up 30 to Pittsburgh. But for the most part, this has been a really consistent defense, and I feel like right now they're kind of entering into that almost elite level conversation. They are a very good defense, and they're very close to being a very great defense. So looking at the offense here, I want to see that run game, man. I just want to see more of the run game. We only saw 4 attempts by Samaje Perine. He only finished with three rushing yards. For the most part, I mean, Joe Burrow had almost 30 completions, not attempts. He had almost 30 completions after the first half, so they were throwing the ball all day. Joe Mixon still had a solid game, 16 carries, 65 yards, 4.1 yards per attempt. You do have to keep in mind New England's a phenomenal defense, number 8th in the league right now. But I feel like the last couple of weeks they've been giving up some big rushing attacks. Tampa, they didn't run the ball all that efficiently. Cleveland was a much better rushing attack, so that's another thing I want to see heading into these last 2 games, Monday Night Football against Buffalo, and then that last game against Baltimore. Both are at home, and those are going to possibly be for the number 1 seed. Kansas City got a nice home win today against Seattle. I don't quite think Kansas City's going to lose to, I believe they got Denver and Vegas in their next 2 games. I have a hard time believing they're going to lose either of those football games, so Cincinnati might just be the number 2 seed in the AFC. But as we talked about in our last video, a lot of you guys, myself included, I would rather prioritize health than having that exact 1 seed. You know, we look at last year as a good example of them going on the road and taking down teams and eventually making the Super Bowl, right? So home field advantage is a big deal, especially in the playoffs, but I still would rather prioritize health. Evan McPherson missed a couple kicks today. I'm not a kicker. It does not seem the easiest of places to kick the ball, I will say that, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Still went 1 of 2 from the field goals and 1 of 2 from the extra points, although it sounds a little, that doesn't sound quite, I thought he missed 2 extra points today, but I guess I am mistaken here. To the receiving room, T. Higgins, absolute gem of a game, 8 receptions, 128 yards, and a touchdown. Jamar Chase chipped in with 8 for 80 about. He did have that fumble, which was, at the time, it seemed really catastrophic there late in the 4th quarter, but thankfully that defense out here making stops. I do want to talk about Trenton Irwin because, I mean, he could have had 3 touchdowns today. He finished 3 catches, 45 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Trenton Irwin is 100% in that receiving core and in this Cincinnati Bengals offense in general. He's 100% a secret weapon. We've talked about this the last several weeks. He's a guy I can lean on. He's a guy I can rely on. Joe Burrow, I mean, he was throwing some dimes in the first half of the game today. So that's a couple of things I want to see heading into the next couple of weeks. To sum up this video, a win is a win, especially on Christmas Eve. Now we can all go relax. We can enjoy our nights with our families, our loved ones, whoever it's going to, you know, whatever your plans involve. And I want to see consistency for good quarters in these last 2 weeks. I want to see that run attack get back to, I guess, kind of, statistically, they're not the best running team in the league this year at just 26th in the NFL, but I want to see them play at their full potential because I know Perine and Mixon, a dual threat of both of them, is going to be very difficult to stop in the playoffs. So hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Hit the like button, hit that sub button, eat some food today, and comment down below. Peace.